Our tale kicks off with a floating fortress that popped out of nowhere 10,000 meters above the ground, marking the beginning of the endless war between humans and monsters. That was the command center fortress. And then they introduced the Blue Guardian, the Green Guardian, the Pink Guardian, the Yellow Guardian, and the Red Guardian Divine Dragon Rangers, the Dragon's Guardians, battling the nefarious monster army. It's been 13 years since the battle started, and the weekly Sunday showdown still draws a crowd. The presenter wonders what fierce battle awaits them that day, eagerly anticipating it. The Rangers are on high alert amidst all the excitement and tension. Monster experts predict the monster army might use their secret weapon that day. The Red Guardian steps forward to greet the people attending the event. The presenter asks the cameraman to zoom in on the Red Guardian signing autographs, praising his attentiveness to fans, as expected from the head of the Ranger Force, the leader of the Dragon Guardians. Everyone's waiting to see his ultimate technique, the Dragon Slash. As always, they're entrusting the future of humans to the Guardians. The monster army hasn't arrived yet, and humans wonder what they're up to in the floating tower. A blonde girl asks a man if he came to watch the fight. Another guy approaches, saying this place will become a battlefield, and they'll do their best to ensure everyone's safety. If he insists on watching despite the risks, he can proceed. The man looks around skeptically, not believing there are risks since there haven't been civilian deaths in years. The blonde girl explains it's part of their protocol to say that, and the man finds it admirable that they're so young and already part of the Ranger Force. The guy says he could join too since the Ranger Force is always looking for new blood, urging him to join them. The man thinks he's getting too close and grabs the flyer to take a look, but he can't picture himself joining the Ranger Force. The blonde girl says it's not difficult, but whether he'll be with them is another story. Then the blonde girl takes the guy's hand, saying the rest is up to him, making him break into a cold sweat. She lets go of his hand, and he ponders it for a while before the guy shows him the staircase to go and watch the game. The guy starts climbing the stairs, taking the underground passage from the first district of Amanagawa, and as he climbs, he sees the command center fortress up high. Suddenly, monsters start descending from the fortress. Those fighters are known as the Shadows, and they're with the Tiger Ultora. The human crowd in the stands throws cans at them, telling them to buzz off, saying the humans will win again. Then the Red Guardian shouts at the monsters, and Ultora is eager because the Red Guardian showed up. The Guardian says they won't let them do as they please because this planet is theirs. They'll protect it from possible reprisals by the monsters, for they are the Dragon Guardians. The human spectators cheer to see the Guardians united at that moment. Then the Tiger Ultora says it's a monster born from all the collective grudges of the tigers on that world. The foolish inhabitants will get what they deserve, starting with all animals having tiger stripes, and he'll turn that world into absolute chaos. The Red Guardian asks how he dares to say that. He won't allow it. Tiger Ultora asks what the surface dwellers are looking at because it's not a zoo. Then he tells the Shadows to grab them and show them hell. But the blonde from the Ranger Force won't let that happen, saying he'll have to deal with her, and asks the guy named Sakurama to take the spectators to safety. So, he does what she asks. The blonde girl's name is Suzukiri. Tiger Ultora unleashes an ultra-powerful ability on the ground, hitting the Guardians. Ultora wonders what happened, asking if that's all the Dragon Guardians have. To the Red Guardian, that was the strongest monster they've ever faced. The Yellow Guardian doesn't disagree. It's really strong. The Green Guardian says if Tiger Ultora seeks a strength battle, he'll be his opponent. So, he grabs a gigantic rock and hurls it at the tiger, who freaks out because it's extremely large. After hitting him, the Green Guardian asks if the monster enjoyed that. The Green Guardian's strength was truly devastating, but Tiger Ultora breaks the large rock. The spectators are shocked. It would take much more than that to kill that monster. One of the spectators asks why they don't use the divine artifact. Tiger Ultora says he'll never die. He's immortal. Then he transforms into the Tora Tora formation, a kind of small truck, and he speeds towards the Dragon Guardians, who are in the middle line, also running towards the tiger in small truck form. They get hit hard. Then Tiger Ultora returns to his standard form. The spectators are shocked. They couldn't believe it was true. The monster was really strong, and some even considered it the end of humanity. A child shouts for the Dragon Guardians to rise and attack the monster. The Red Guardian stands up. But for him, it's the end of the line. They're going to lose, but as long as there's someone to protect, they'll rise, no matter how many times it takes. Then they strike a pose. Meanwhile, Suzuki fights a shadow, and the shadow is scared because they're already using the divine artifact. He asks the surviving shadows to join them, and they all gather alongside Tiger Ultora. One of them tells them to use the classic this time. As soon as they fire the dragon detonator, one asks if they're going back to the fortress to rebuild. They're eager for the loser's speech. Tiger Ultora says he doesn't know what to say. He hadn't thought of anything. Then they start suggesting ideas, but one of the shadows thinks it's too cliché. In that moment of distraction, the Dragon Guardians prepare the dragon's breath to attack the shadows, but the shadow called D is tired of the charade and starts walking towards the Dragon Guardians, and at that moment, they fire, but D is tired of the pretense. An explosion is caused by the Dragon Guardians' attack, and the Red Guardian says it's time for commercials. An hour before the event, the shadows were in the fortress, and one of them said they were finished this time because they hadn't thought of anything. And they still hadn't created the monster of the week. They show on a board what the monster of the week would be, but one of them says they can't have new ideas every week, and he doesn't care. He's going to take a nap. They listen to the radio announcer talking about the battle that started 13 years ago, and one of the shadows believes the arena is heating up. They continue listening to the radio, hoping the announcer says something that serves as a hint, and the announcer says an expert believes the monsters have a great chance of deploying their secret weapon, which the shadows totally disagree with. The one lying down says that it's pathetic that the battle has been going on for 13 years, and he asks why they're in that mess still. Who would expect that to happen to them? The floating fortress fell a year ago, and all their bosses were wiped out with it. They were just shadows. What soldiers like them could do was a mystery to them. They also didn't understand how their bosses were exterminated, and they survived, and all they do is speculate, until one of them says it's not time for idle talk. They need to act, so he starts thinking of something, and then he presents the idea of a super strong monster with bulging muscles. Some are impressed because it looks strong, until the one lying down says it won't work. He explains that abstract ideas don't leave a lasting impression. They'll lose focus as soon as they step on stage. The monster needs some kind of theme, but for them, if they get caught up in the details, they might not have time to present anything. And the one drawing and giving ideas starts to panic because they wouldn't be in that terrible mess if the bosses were alive. For one of them, it's no use thinking about what they don't have. They need to figure it out on their own, so the shadow shows a cute monster cat because the surface dwellers would love it, and it would be a hit. But one of them says they should create something that the inhabitants don't love, but rather are scared of: big scary monsters, because defeating big scary monsters gives a sense of spiritual purification. So, the shadow considers turning the cute cat into a lion. One says it should be a tiger because they already made a lion 7 years ago. He heard that on the surface, they use dragons and tigers to describe rivals, so they start reflecting, but they're already thinking about defeat, which bothers the shadow who suggested making a tiger because they're monsters, and they can't win at that moment. But they can't give up hope of winning one day because that's what matters. So, he says they should create something that really beats the Dragon Guardians because that's their mission. One of the shadows doesn't understand because they don't know what mission they had. And the shadow who suggested making a tiger monster says their mission is to dominate the world. Their boss may be dead, but the mission remains the same. They should fight and take over the world. However, the other shadows start laughing at him, and he decides to attack them, until suddenly, one of them approaches and tells D to calm down because it didn't make sense for them to fight among themselves. The shadows fought about 998 times against the Dragon Guardians. They lost the day the bosses were exterminated, and they continued to invade the planet every Sunday. But civilians couldn't know it was all staged. That was the truce condition agreed upon since that day, so they would have to accept it. After much discussion, They agreed to make a tiger monster for real. So they take an animal encyclopedia offered by the Rangers, and then the Shadow tries to transform into a tiger, even though he doesn't know what a tiger looks like, and then they come up with a name, and D thinks he's better than the Shadow who transformed. His colleague says he should volunteer to do the job, and D says he would never volunteer to be a boss. He didn't want to be a boss to be defeated. And then his colleague says during the last Sunday confrontation, he saw a small surface dweller in front of him, and he told him he was an enemy to do his best. And he didn't understand, it really didn't make sense, but for some reason, he didn't feel bad. For the sake of the general public, who don't know the truth, he would do his best. They make the Rangers stand out, and the audience gets excited, no matter if he already knew they were going to lose. And then, we see the Guardians shooting at the Shadows again, and D swearing he would strive to be the best monster, the perfect monster, and the announcer says that was the Guardians' secret technique, the dragon's breath, and the announcer says once again, the future of humanity was saved by the Guardians, but the Shadow called D amidst the sand and smoke, saying they were immortal, but they couldn't do what they wanted with them because they could still feel pain. Monsters weren't just there to take a beating. Even though the civilians didn't realize it was just a show, they repeated the same thing every week. The Shadows weren't satisfied with that, and D asked if they didn't want something different for a change, like the possibility of the monsters winning. All the Guardians realized that wasn't the deal, and one Guardian said he still had time to go back to the fortress, but D said it was time to end the rigged games. He swore he would take down the Dragon Guardians in a real fight. However, D, who was brimming with confidence, was defeated anyway, but he was tired of doing what they told him. And then we find out he's that guy who was talking to Suzuriki. He doesn't give up on the idea of defeating the Dragon Guardians. He's going to make a plan because he's tired of living like that.